Who do you think you are when living in a small world? As wicked as you think you are when living in a small world. As bad as you think you are.
Welcome back to the Steady Show. Thanks for liking and subscribing. I don't know who Seymour Panton think he is, The employee at the Integrity Commission that sits in the position of chairman, who is paid and eat and shit taxpayers' dollars, who is answerable to the parliament, but clearly nobody has told him he's the first one we want to address today. You are answerable to the parliament, and the parliament is answerable to the Jamaican people. Don't tell anybody about coming to your church because Jesus would not approve of your behavior. Jesus was humble. Panton is not the problem, Panton is a symptom of a problem. We thought it was Kevin Stevenson, but I've been calling Greg Christie's name long, and so we saw them. They came to the parliament and they showed out. Just like months ago when we did the Integrity Commission videos. Me tell you no, me say it's a witch hunt body. That's what they've been doing. The Integrity Commission is only as useful and as powerful as the quality work that they produce. The work that they produce is a whole mess. So for everybody who's been impressed by the work done by Jamaica 411 and going through the accounts and for all the mistakes that they've made in the reports, there is no way we could have had such a messed up report. If they were so on top of their game, they should be able to track the source of leaking the information. But of course, they're not going to tell us any of that. One of the things I paid attention to was the fact that they never answer no questions. The fact that they could be summoned to the parliament, disrespect the parliament in the face of the Jamaican people. It's a big problem, but the bigger problem is this, I saw Juliet Cuthbert Flynn came out and she said Panton needs to resign for disrespecting the parliament. And we know that may never happen, but let's focus on something here. These guys were called into questioning. Many questions they refused to answer. Malahoo Fort was clearly the adults in the room who at the time when they were reviewing the act or were about to pass the act, she reiterated what she said before. She said the act should have been rewritten. It should have never been passed, which means to say it is faulty from day one.
My final comment, Chairman. Even as I look forward to further engagements, I'm coming away from this meeting reinforcing the view that I had when this act was presented to the Parliament. Those who would recall, I expressed the view that the law needed to be completely rewritten, that the model needed to be rethought, and I am of that solid view that the law needs to be completely rewritten and that the model needs to be rethought. And that is what I'm going to take away from this meeting with a recommendation for implementation.
The root of the problem, is the fact that the JLP allowed this, they literally signed their political death sentence. And this is what happens when you try to play nice. This is what happens when you allow people like Mark Golding to make it all the way to Parliament with a criminal mentality. He's going to find a way to oust his political enemies. I was just reading the case yesterday with Dalrymple from Trelawney South, and her attorney pointed out the fact that it's an abuse of power on the Integrity Commission's part for what they've done. For example, in a case where she leave off her Mercedes-Benz, they made her aware that she needed to submit information. She asked permission to submit the correct information, but they still referred her for prosecution because that's what they wanted to do. So how is it that the Integrity Commission has so much power that they don't give people the opportunity to resolve things? They just recommended her for prosecution. That should have never happened. The Integrity Commission should not be there to catch anybody who them choose to catch, just so that they can get them out. Malahoo Fort may have to help them fight this battle, but Malahoo Fort should not have to deal with the brunt of what's happening right here. As I'm telling you, so you have to listen to the ladies them, because the ladies them smart and sometimes they see further. Team JLP, y'all fail to do your diligence on a sign on a political death sentence by allowing the Integrity Commission Act to be passed into law. And now we have Panton disrespecting the parliament, PNP joining in the fight. If you don't understand warfare, you notice what Mark do? Other day when Mark mother just dead, I for show you how the dirty Mark Goldenton, you know. Him there behind it, I watch the play. He's watching this play out, you know. Him go a football match the other day. Him wearing blue. This morning again, me see him, I put up things about him mother, acting as if this is not what he was talking about on his phone last night. Acting as if he is not a part of this play. You don't have to understand how them people don't have no honesty about them. The Integrity Commission can now be named the No Transparency Commission. They need to defund the Integrity Commission. God help Andrew to win his case, and God help Andrew so that they change certain things. It should never have been passed into law. It's a political death sentence. Malahoo Fort saw it. We want to know who else saw it. You know, the real adults in the room yesterday, was Pernell Charles and Malahoo Fort. Bartlett, the nice guy. I hear some content creators saying Bartlett not supposed to chair that the committee. You need Warmington. You need people who will push back and ask tough questions. So we know nationwide they came out and they talk about it, and one of the things a lot of people are upset about is the reference that Panton made to not drinking water from the parliament, because the water that them a drink clearly I made them think a certain way. And it was a bad statement because, for the public don't appreciate things like that. But these people, they deal with one another. So, they laugh, but we never want the JLP to be laughing about things that the nation takes seriously. One of the things that needs to be made clear is the fact that the Integrity Commission is answerable to the Parliament, and clearly they need to be decommissioned at this point. They also, as Warmington pointed out, they need to be audited, because I wouldn't be surprised if all this money that they're taking to do all of this sloppy work, if it's not just another money laundering scheme, because we are not seeing the quality work. I believe somebody asked Kevin Stevenson what percentage of reports are referred to a third party for over the years, and him say about 3%, but they had to make sure that the Andrew Holness one was a part of it. Now, as Pernell Charles kept saying, he's okay with some of the recommendations, others he can't agree with. And we know that that was established because the mere fact that they say there was no illicit enrichment says that the thing should have stopped from there. So what am I use the opportunity for further investigation to FID and the tax office? Those are the things that still needs to be addressed. They didn't answer a lot of questions. For instance, Malahoo Fort was asking them things such as, so what happens in terms of how you judge the person before, how did you look at the person's assets before they even became a declarant? What happens? What happens in other cases where the declarant was a part of a limited liability company? Basic questions like that Stevenson couldn't answer, or he refused to give a direct answer to. So you see those questions that Malahoo Fort asked, they are what you call leading questions. She has follow-up questions. So I'm telling you, they are still in trouble. So don't let the arrogance fool you, people. They have proven themselves. So in other words, when you look at the messy report and you look at their messy behaviors, now you can see that they are one and the same. So don't get thrown off by the fact that they were on the defensive. The mere fact that Greg Christie had to be given all these loaded answers to a simple question. Basically, answering certain questions before the questions are asked because he knows where the questions are pointing to. And Pernell Charles, he held his cool, but his concerns are very legitimate. And of course, Panton taught him in his own words. He showed that he drew the line yesterday because he knows that Panton and the Integrity Commission, they weren't acting with any kind of integrity. And that was clear. Andrew's case is still strong because if you notice, Andrew focused on the procedural errors, the guidelines that were not followed in his case. When Panton is here talking, at one point, I don't remember the question that was asked, and he and other people pointed this out. He said it was his opinion, but it's not your opinion that matters. It's a matter of what the law says and how the law is interpreted. And so at no point in this process do we care about opinions from the Integrity Commission. These are some of the things that I paid attention to. We want to hear what the law said and what actions were taken within the guidelines and the framework of the law. We can't just look at the law, but we have to look at how the law has been applied. Why is it that the same law not apply to other people in a parliament? In Andrew's own words, why is it that Andrew Holness is the most scrutinized member of parliament? We are still interested in finding out why is it that the Prime Minister was placed under investigation in the first place. We also want to find out why is it that they kept pursuing the case after all their investigations proved that there was no illicit enrichment. So don't get confused. Now that Panton talk about he's not answerable to anybody but the court and God. Are you sure about that? And it would be interesting to find out who are some of the people that you're answerable to in the court. Because is this a secret society? Are you a member of one of those secret societies? Because look now, you come here play this big, high and mighty person in the parliament, disrespecting the parliament and the Jamaican people. You don't get to exercise that level of arrogance and condescension to the Jamaican people or to the parliamentarians. And we expect the parliamentarians to put them foot down as the adults in the room come the next sitting.
And a number of persons have come into public life, with limited knowledge of these things and are well guided by an institution like yours, whose responsibility is to ensure that the country understands and does comply. Because there's no glory in prosecution. There's glory in compliance.
We would be
and
happy,
being able to report that we have 100% compliance by.
We would be happy if the law made the declaration form just two pages.
I'm coming away from this meeting reinforcing the view that I had when this act was presented to the Parliament. Those who would recall, I expressed the view that the law needed to be completely rewritten, that the model needed to be rethought, and I am of that solid view.
Chairman, in the opening remarks, and I go back to Chairman Panton, and I only do so because of my respect for him. He is someone who, as a law student, you have no choice but to look up to. As a young attorney, we're not young anymore, 20 years now. He is someone that you see as judicious, a man of God. And he made reference to some of us perhaps visiting him on Sunday.
But he goes to church.
I go to church on Saturday. But I have no hesitation in still joining the chair. But as we close, it is our Almighty that said to us and reminded us that simply calling him Lord and acknowledging him won't be enough to secure a place in heaven. What truly matters is doing the will of God and living that life aligned to his teaching and values. Not everything that is said and done will accord because it is said and done. Chairman, these are serious matters. I want to thank the commissioners, Justice Hibbert, great respect, and others for coming before us, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Powell, and the members. And I want to assure them and hope that they leave understanding that my probing is not meant in any disrespect. It is meant for me to carry out my function, which Panton is part of, who taught me that function. And I hope that we can continue to have probing discussions so that the country that we serve will benefit. The last thing I'll say, Chairman, is that it is troubling to me, the response to the questions around particular clauses in this legislation. It is troubling because basic interpretation follows rules and principles of law. We have an Interpretation Act, and we have different ways to interpret, literally, etc., going down, as has been said also by Member Malahoo Ford. Either the inability or the decision not to see that clearly causes me a lot of concern. And I do think that we will have to have some discussions further around what is now the current reality and how we're treating with this reality before we even speak about what our recommendations and aspirations should be. Thank you, Chairman.
Let us not allow anyone to distract us from the mission at hand for the empowerment of people. And we stand for growth.
We love what the JLP is doing for the country. We are not pleased with what happened in the parliament yesterday. Steady family, go in the comments and let me know what you think right now. This is a Steady saying. Like, share, and subscribe. Steady.